Have you ever sat quietly in your home, everything still, maybe a cup of tea in your hand, and suddenly felt this wave of emotion you couldn't quite explain? Maybe it wasn't sadness, not exactly, not joy either, just this soft ache in your chest, like something long forgotten was trying to make itself known again. And you couldn't tell whether it was memory or longing or just a part of you that never got a chance to speak. That feeling right there, that quiet stirring in your soul might be your inner child, not a metaphor, not just a concept from psychology books, but the very real part of you that still holds the dreams, the wounds, the fears in the light of your earliest self. That part of you didn't vanish with age. It didn't get left behind in the old house or tucked away in the photo albums. It's still there, waiting, hoping, sometimes hurting. Today, I want to walk with you through 5 quiet but powerful signs that your inner child still needs you. And more importantly, how you can finally show up for them, gently, honestly, lovingly. This isn't about reliving the past. It's about healing it. It's about creating peace from the inside out. So let's begin. Sign 1, you still feel guilty for being too much or not enough. Let me ask you something, softly and without judgment. Have you ever looked back on who you were, whether as a child, a teenager, even a young adult, and felt a deep guilt? Not necessarily about something you did wrong, but just for being you. Maybe you felt you were too loud, too sensitive, too needy, or maybe not smart enough, not brave enough, not fast or funny or cool enough. That voice, the one that still whispers to you in moments of self-doubt, might not be yours. It might belong to a parent who was too tired to listen, a teacher who didn't understand you, a society that didn't make room for your kind of magic. And over time, you began to believe it. You learned to apologize for your joy. You kept your dreams quiet. You stopped crying in front of others. You became small in the places where you were once meant to shine. That's not your fault. That's a child trying to survive. And that child may still be inside you, wondering what they did wrong. If guilt has been a companion in your life, even for things you can't quite explain, that's a sign your inner child never got the reassurance they needed. And maybe now you can be the one to give it to them. You can whisper into that quiet place in your heart, you were never too much. You were never not enough. You were simply you, and you were beautiful all along. If guilt is the voice of the past, silence is often its shadow. Sign 2, you struggle to feel safe expressing emotions. Have you ever felt the need to hold things in, not just tears, but everything? Your frustrations, your excitement, your needs. Maybe you were raised in a home where emotions were considered weakness. Maybe you heard things like, stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about, or don't be dramatic, or even toughen up. So you did. You learned to toughen up. You smiled when you were hurting. You kept your fears hidden. You told yourself that emotions were for later, if they were for anything at all. But now, as the years pass, that well of emotion inside you might be fuller than ever. And sometimes it leaks out in ways you don't expect. Tears during a TV commercial. A sudden wave of anger over something small. A quiet loneliness that's hard to put into words. These aren't random. They're messages from the child inside who was never allowed to feel freely, who learned early that their sadness, their anger, their needs would be met with punishment or cold silence. You may not have felt safe to feel back then, but now as an adult with wisdom and depth, you can start to create that safety for yourself. You can cry and know it's not weakness. You can feel anger and know it's a signal, not a flaw. You can say, this hurts, and trust that the world won't fall apart because you said it. You're not too emotional, you're healing. You're listening to the voice and it's you that finally feels ready to be heard. And sometimes that silence isn't just emotional, it's creative too. Sign 3, you've lost touch with wonder, play, or joy? Let's talk about joy, not the kind that comes from achievements or big events, but the small, childlike kind. The joy that comes from singing in the shower, from watching clouds float across the sky, from dancing in your kitchen when no one's watching. Do you remember that feeling? If you don't, you're not alone. Many of us, especially as we age, drift away from joy. Life becomes more about responsibilities, routines, losses, and to-do lists. And that's understandable. Life gets heavy. But somewhere inside, there's a child who still wants to play, who still wants to imagine and create and laugh with abandon, who still wants to paint without needing to stay inside the lines. If you find yourself feeling stuck in seriousness, if you've forgotten what it feels like to laugh from your belly or to be silly without shame, your inner child is probably feeling neglected. Not because you're a bad person, but because life asked you to grow up too fast and you didn't know how to say no. The good news is that kind of joy never truly disappears. It might be quiet, it might be buried, but it's still there, waiting for you to say, let's play. Go outside, watch the birds, hum your favorite childhood song. Allow yourself 5 minutes of being completely unproductive, not because you've earned it, but because you exist. And that's reason enough. But as we chase joy, we often trip over memories we never fully made peace with. Sign 4, you feel unseen or unloved, even in a room full of people. This one might hurt a little, but it's an important one. Have you ever been surrounded by family, by friends, by people who care about you, and still felt invisible? Have you ever poured yourself into others, caring, helping, showing up, and still felt like no one really sees you? That's not a failure on your part. That's a reflection of a very old wound. A wound that might have formed in childhood when the people around you didn't know how to love you fully. Maybe they were too distracted. Maybe they were hurting themselves. Or maybe they just didn't know how to speak your language. And so you learn to give love in order to receive it. You learn to be useful instead of simply being loved for who you are. But your inner child still longs for that unconditional gaze. The kind of love that says, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to be anything, just let me hold you. Even now, decades later, that longing may still live in your heart. And it can feel especially strong in moments of loneliness or transition. But here's the healing truth. You can now offer that love to yourself. You can say, I see you, you've done so much, you've survived so much, and you don't need to prove anything to deserve love. You can become the one who finally sees that child, who sits with them, who says, you matter, I choose you. And once you begin to see them clearly, they begin to trust you again. Sign 5. You find yourself longing for closure or craving what you never received. There's something that happens as we grow older. We begin to sift through our memories. Sometimes it's gentle. Other times it's like walking through a storm. We remember moments we didn't fully understand at the time. Harsh words, confusing silences, doors that never open. And we wonder why. Why did no one stand up for me? Why didn't someone protect me? Why didn't I get the love I so desperately needed? That ache for closure doesn't always fade with time. In fact, for many people, it becomes louder as life slows down. You might find yourself wishing for an apology that never came, for a conversation that will never happen, for answers that passed away with the people who hurt you. That craving for clarity, for justice, for softness, is a signal that your inner child still believes healing is possible. And it is. Even if the people who hurt you are gone, even if the circumstances can't be changed, you can still give yourself what they could not. You can write letters to your younger self. You can speak aloud the words you always needed to hear. I believe you. You didn't deserve that. You were a good kid, and you should have been loved better. The power to offer comfort now belongs to you. And no matter how many years have passed, it is never too late. It is never too late to come home to yourself. Final chapter, coming home to yourself. So here you are, after all these years, after all the growing, the surviving, the loving, the losing. And still, inside you is that child, not frozen in time, but alive, waiting, and now, finally, you can answer them. This isn't about blaming the past. It's not about fixing it either. It's about facing it with tenderness. It's about being the presence you always needed, the voice of truth, the arms of comfort, the eyes that see clearly, the love that doesn't run away. That child in you, they carried you here. They kept hope alive when you didn't know how. They kept you curious, kept you kind, kept you human. They are not a weakness. They are not something to hide. They are your most sacred companion. They deserve to be seen. And so do you. Tonight, if you can, find a photo of your younger self, hold it in your hands. Look into those eyes and say what they've been waiting a lifetime to hear. I see you, I hear you, I believe you, and I will never leave you again. If this spoke to you, I'd love for you to be part of this growing community. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. This space is for healing, for reflection, for real connection. Thank you for being here.